Go ahead, Spot.
Any particular story behind just that celebration you had with Coach Hackett on that deep shot today? I know you don't want to give away any schematics, but you guys were pretty animated on that one.
Sometimes we sit in the room and we talk about certain plays in the mornings, and you know that can be the genesis of a big play or a crappy one. You only celebrate on the good ones, obviously, but we talked about that play. Hackett actually came up with it. We've been working on some different concepts to kind of work on the next 2 weeks, as you know, some of the guys are doing Buffalo stuff. We're looking ahead to New Orleans in the regular season, and it was a beautiful play design. And I came out clean off the edge and actually probably had Randall and who else was that side? Devontae might have been that side. But I just peeked back to the side and saw Marquez running wide open, and he's pretty fast. Didn't quite run out of arm, but it's fun when things come together like that in the QB room, and then you can execute them on the field.
Aaron, how has Quez grown as a receiver since he left here last season?
I don't even want to talk about the receiver. I want to talk about the person. The person is in a way different headspace. You know, I think he is so settled mentally, very clear, very present. You know, there's habits that go along with that, I think, and I think they're interchangeable, personal, professional, but he's become a true professional. There were times a couple of years ago where we didn't know if we could count on him because he was inconsistent in his practice habits and his daily habits almost, but that's not the Marquez that I know now. I mean, he is an avid reader now. I helped him out. I took a nice little trip over to Barnes & Noble, got him a little starter pack on some books I thought he would like. But he's a way different person. He is very, very present, very professional. He's a leader now in the room. He's very comfortable with the scheme. Big Dog and I actually were talking to the tight ends yesterday. We had a break in the meeting, in the afternoon meetings, and I popped in because I love that tight end room. And they just had this conversation about some life stuff. And Big Dog and I both shared, being the older guys in that room at that time, just how important the personal side is to being able to play more consistently, professionally. And I mentioned in that room 2 guys in particular who I feel like made big jumps, and it was corresponding off the field work that they do that I think has really helped, and the 2 were Marquez and Allen.
Have you always felt that way, that off the field translates to on the field, or is that something that's kind of evolved for you?
I think it's evolved a little bit. I think you can definitely see when there's issues off the field or the things that are bothering people, or might be imbalances where it does affect the certain guys. I think it can work in hand in hand. Sometimes guys become more comfortable as a professional, and it allows them personally to be their true self and their personality come out. Sometimes it's the opposite, you know, maybe struggling professionally a little bit, habit-wise, start forming good habits off the field, settle into your personal life, whatever that looks like and means is different for everybody. And then you see the professional life start to really balance and level. And I think we've seen usually more the other way. I mean, the personal life kind of coming in alignment and the professional life settling in, and guys being way more consistent, and those guys especially have done it. I just laugh. I look at some of the social media posts from our guys, and you guys probably do too, but I was teasing Preston this morning. I said, where did all this, positivity come from? Because, it's definitely been a change with him, and he's a guy who's been working on himself off the field and trying to spread more love and positivity. And his play, you guys have seen it in training camp. I thought he's played really well. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Aaron, how has that evolved for you personally? Like, Kevin King was in here the other day, and he was talking about his conversations with Chris Carr. You were ahead of the curve answering a question from Matt, I think, last year, where you went in depth with it, or 2 years ago. Like, you've been kind of on the cutting edge of talking about mental health more, and now it seems to have a groundswell. What was your journey like, and how different are you from, the old days of the radio show and that sort of stuff?
Mm-hmm. Well, I still am the same in many respects. I love learning. So if there's concepts or ideas that I don't know about, I dive into researching those things, because I love being able to hang in any conversation, any group of people. That's always been important to me. the mental health has been something that I've taken seriously for a long time. You know, an old coach of mine, Joe Kemp, used to encourage us to visualize as a young basketball player and how important that was the night before, thinking about the type of plays you want to make the next day, and seeing yourself with those positive images allows your body and your mind to know that you've already made those in essence, and your mind doesn't necessarily know the difference between a visualization and an actual play. So you have that positive picture in your mind already. It never went away, but I think the emphasis on that really started 6 or 7 years ago, kind of diving back into that. I have an amazing acupuncturist, and she helped me with various ways of breathing related to box breathing for stressful times in my professional life and also my personal life, but professionally carrying that over in the times where I felt anxious or stressed. Working on the box breathing was very beneficial to me. You know, pre-game, 2-minute, before a 2-minute drive, important, 4-minute drive, just to settle my heartbeat and settle any nerves. And then I think the important thing to do is to start passing that along. And not everybody's ready for different things that I'm talking about or other people are talking about, but you start planting these seeds. And then Dr. Carr came in and was given a platform, and I felt like it was important to back him up from the start because that's something I've been doing for a long time, and I was one of his first patients or whatever you call it. I went and saw him right away because I wanted to see what he was all about, and he obviously has an extensive experience of working with professional athletes and Olympians, and even taking just 1 or 2 things from a session can really impact your life and your focus on the field. And so he kind of re-energized the visualization aspect and the idea of what flow really is, and incorporating my own beliefs and habits into that has created, I think, a good system for me to feel really focused and centered on the field, and then being able to try and pass that along to guys has been really fun.
Aaron, start to finish with camp, you look pretty sharp. How would you assess your performance throughout camp, and is this your best camp, do you think?
Pretty sharp. I think it's been a good camp. Definitely been a good camp. I felt good from the beginning. It's a fine line because, as you guys have seen over the years, I do like to work on things and test things in training camp and make maybe slightly dicier throws than I would in the regular season. But it's about finding that muscle memory in those moments to be able to repeat those throws or those pocket movements to get to a platform to make a throw. I think that I've been accurate. A lot of that is due to my legs, which I talked extensively about last year, but having my legs underneath me has really meant a great deal to my ability to be consistent with my balance and my rhythm and my timing. And when all those things are kind of in line, that's when the accuracy comes. I feel like I've been pretty accurate. The other thing that's, that needs probably continued attention is the guys that we got. I've talked about a number of them, but when you look at those 4 receivers that we have at the top of the depth chart, pretty special. You got the best guy in the league. You got 3 incredible role players, and that's said with the utmost amount of respect. Guys who, all 3 of them, as I answered earlier, very settled, stable guys, mentally off the field, and that allows them to be very focused competitors on the field. I think Allen and Marquez and Randall have had really good camps. They each bring a lot of different things to the table, but those guys have been a big part of us kind of gelling on offense. I feel like offensively, perimeter-wise, we've had a really nice camp.
Aaron, you were once a young quarterback that wasn't getting a lot of reps like Jordan, needing the preseason snaps, not like you are now. What have you seen from Jordan as a whole this camp, but how damaging to the development is it to that he missed a game against New York, and he's had this injury, obviously, with how last season went for him as well with COVID?
Well, first, happy birthday again to Tom Fanning, who I reference a lot for those watching at home. Happy 47th birthday, Tom. Thank you. As far as Jordan is concerned, I still tend to agree with my longtime, well, medium time, I guess, teammate Brady Papinga in the importance of preseason. I think the practice reps are the most important thing because you're going to see more defenses that you might see in the regular season. I think what hurt him more was maybe missing that day against the Jets, or both. You missed both the days. Yeah, missing those 2 days because Saleh threw a lot of things at us, and that to me is more important than the game. Now, the first week the Texans didn't play a whole lot on defense. They played some very vanilla coverages. It would have been better against the Jets. Buffalo, I'm assuming, I heard starters are going to play. So if he's able to play, which I think he's going to. I'm not speaking out of turn there, am I, Tom? Thank you. Happy birthday. Okay, TBD. But this would be great for him because starters and that Bills defense, which is very aggressive and throws a bunch of different looks, will be good for him. The thing, and I talked about it with John Kuhn the first week, the most important thing for any young quarterback, especially for Jay, is the footwork. And when he throws the ball on time, he's a very accurate quarterback. You know, if there's any type of clutter with progression or read or whatever, for any of us, any quarterback, when you're not throwing the ball in rhythm, it becomes more difficult to be accurate and be effective. I thought just today we were working on a couple things with Getsy, and I thought he did a really nice job with a couple things we were working on with him and Kurt and Jake. So, you know, he just needs to trust his footwork and go out and play in rhythm.
But in all seriousness, with Josh, like, where's the development and the chemistry at between you guys?
I was very gentle and patient early in camp, and there has to be a switch because we're getting a little closer. It's important that he feels the urgency in my demeanor moving forward, especially with potentially, you know, a young person playing next to him. We need him to play more like a veteran and not like a rookie. And it's not something that we haven't demanded out of guys in this position before. Corey Linsley, you know, did that, played against Seattle, I think his first game, and lined up against Michael Bennett for much of the game. So he's capable of it. The good thing is there's a lot of situations that have happened over the last couple of weeks that are great teaching moments. And the more that we can put ourselves in situations like today, which I really enjoyed today's practice, the noise, which we haven't done before, the more we can have situations come up that we can learn from. That was what happened today, was a conversation we've had one time, and the situation came up, and he didn't respond how we talked about. But I would guess, knowing him a little bit now, that that'll be his one-time mistake on that. And you need plays like that. I mean, I'm not mad about that. I'm frustrated and snap it at the moment, but I'm not ultimately mad. I'm way happier that happened in practice than down in New Orleans.
That would have been a free play, so just to clarify, that would have been a free play situation, or is that why you wanted him to snap?
No, he decided to change the cadence on his own. Actually, I made an adjustment, and he decided to not change the cadence by himself. Just about everybody else probably moved, but he was kind of doing his own thing.
Aaron, I know there's urgency every year, but is there more of it this year in your shoes where obviously your future is what it is, and Devontae's a free agent, MVS, you guys are way over the salary cap for next year. I don't want to say it's Super Bowl or bust this year, but is there maybe a little bit more of that this year?
I feel like you might have. Have you written an article already that said Super Bowl or
not.
bust?
I'm going to.
You've been thinking about it, though. Huh? Look, I think we all know what's at stake, and I talked about that a little bit the other day about perspective and how important that perspective is to focus on this season and enjoy the most, the most out of this season, because there are a lot of unknowns. You know, Devontae, Marquez, Allen, Bobby, Mercedes, some guys up front, guys on defense. So, yeah, I mean, they jumped through some hoops to get on the cap this year. Obviously, the cap is expected to go back up next year, but you never know. So we're just going to enjoy this season. It's title town. It's championship or disappointment just about every year.
So along those lines, maybe it's just because you guys are a bunch of veteran guys, you'll be able to handle it. How do you not allow all that stuff to become a little bit too consuming, too much of a focus, or is it just because you guys are older guys who've been around and kind of been there and done that, that you can kind of stick it in your back pocket when it matters?
I'm not saying that some teams don't struggle with that, I don't know, but it's not something that's on my mind or the leaders' minds as far as the long-term focus. We try and keep things a little tighter focused, on improvement and mindset on a daily basis. I'm trying to avoid cliches here because I don't believe in them, but we obviously have goals. But what's gotten us to this point of a couple, objectively successful years is that same focus on the mindset, chemistry, professionalism. So that's not going to change. All I meant the other day was I think we're all just going to try and enjoy this one a little bit more.
Aaron,
Two more
back
in
to
here.
the offensive line. You might have two rookies on the line, getting Josh coached up. How do you feel about the projection that you've got going into the season, especially with Black not slated to be back for the opener?
He's not? Happy birthday, Tom. 46 years old. It's amazing. Look, it's different. We've had some veteran lines over the years. This won't be one of them. There'll be some young guys playing and some guys playing spots they haven't played a ton of time at. It's just the way it goes, There's not going to be a grace period, though, I can promise you that. The way that Steno coaches those guys up, the demand that I have for those guys, the accountability to their fellow line mates is pretty damn high. So there's an expectation of a standard of play that doesn't change just because it's not, Josh Sitton and TJ Lang and Brian Balaga and Dave out there. It's these guys got to step up and play well. I have confidence in them, but days like today are huge learning experiences because there were some mistakes, there was some not great execution. So we'll see how they bounce back.
Aaron, you said you like to learn as many things as you can and hang in any conversation. Are you vaccinated, and what's your stance on vaccinations?
Yeah, I've been immunized. There's a lot of conversation around it, around the league, and a lot of guys who have made statements and have made statements, owners who made statements. There's guys on the team that haven't been vaccinated. I think it's a personal decision. I'm not going to judge those guys. There's guys who have been vaccinated that have contracted COVID. So it's an interesting issue that I think we're going to see played out the entire season. I'm not sure what they're going to do with, the testing schedule. I know that talking to JC, the PA had talked about testing every single day for everybody. The league obviously, I think, shot that down or didn't want to do that. I don't know if that was financially incentivized or whatnot, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens if we can, if the protocols change at some point. It's obviously something that's moving. It's the protocols and the outline guidelines are kind of changing day to day. It seems.
Aaron, without getting
Last
into
one.
the personal choice thing about that, from a football perspective, Kirk Cousins is talking about how he's like in a hermetically sealed box or something in the quarterback room. The Patriots appear frustrated with Cam Newton because he hasn't. From a football and competitive standpoint, was that important to make sure that you're always, that you're most likely going to be available? And I don't know, maybe even from an example setting standpoint?
No, I don't know. It wasn't about that at all. I think, I like to learn about everything that I'm doing, and there was a lot of research that even went into that, but there's been, like I said, there's been people that have tested positive. I think it's only vaccinated people here, so it's going to be interesting to see how things work moving forward. Obviously, there could be some issues with vaccinated people only testing every other couple weeks and then non-vaccinated testing every day. Last year, I felt like, and I think I read something about this, it was more difficult maybe to pull a guy out who might have tested positive on game day. I don't think that'll be the issue with somebody who's not vaccinated, but, you know, it is interesting to see how things are played out. I think there's been a lot of conversation around it, and just in talking with JC, I think this is going to continue to evolve as we get into the season.
Sarah, we can go for one on Zoom here, last one.
Who's on Zoom?
Sarah?
Sorry to keep you, Aaron. Last year, obviously, you can look at the matchup with the Saints. You guys scored 37 points. You think, hey, you're gonna roll again. But every year is a new year. Dennis Allen did some really good stuff against you guys last year. You let yourself kind of look ahead and start breaking down that tape, or you can wait till game week to really get after the Saints defense?
Well, it's a different schedule. You know, usually you finish up the preseason, you have a couple days off, and then you get into in the study right away that weekend. We have now kind of 2 weeks before the first game, so I'm sure we'll do a lot more Saints stuff next week. But yeah, I felt like we did some real good things against the Saints without Devontae. So be trying to find ways to get him involved, obviously, which is kind of the plan every single week. But yeah, he runs an interesting scheme where he can bring a lot of different blitz patterns at you. So we'll start getting back into that probably next week and have a good week and a half preparation for the Saints.